Hello, everybody. This is Sarah Gluck with Cannabis, and I'm here today with Dino H Carter. Dino runs Deep Branding out of Los Angeles, California, and has been in the marketing business for over 20 years. He focuses on cannabis, medical dispensaries, consumer packaged goods, all within the cannabis industry, has lived in Europe, the Middle East, and the United States. He's been in the Israeli army, and I hear that he's a great guitar player. Dino, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you.
So let's get into this. How did you get into cannabis and cannabis marketing?
Well, it's very interesting. It happened in the early 2000s, back in Israel, actually. I did lots of PR in Israel, and OCB, the French luxury rolling papers, which actually in French is OCB, they wanted to launch in Israel. Back then, nothing was legal, not in Israel, not anywhere. And the idea with them was, they were very, very expensive, the most expensive rolling paper you can find at the liquor store. Just the pack itself cost them a lot of money. They had all those embossed packaging and holograms and foil and all that. And back then, they were probably the first ones to use special rice paper. So the whole R&D was very expensive, and that's why they were so expensive. And in a world when you can have other brands for just a buck, and they sold it for more than 4 times higher than that. That's how I started. I was supposed to launch them and get them penetrated to the Israeli market. It was, and I like to learn from everything. It was a great experience, and I learned a lot about branding, about knowing your brand, focusing, and know who you're selling to. Because when we were in the first meeting, and I understood how expensive they're going to be, I was a little bit, I didn't think that it will work. But then I talked to them, and they were like, this is who we are. We are not focusing, and we're not even trying to get everybody. We have a very specific customer base, and they will pay more, not only for a better product, but so people will see them using this product. Because if they use this specific product, it says something about them. Just like when you buy a Daytona watch instead of a Casio watch or a $20 watch. And my idea was not only to just give those, as giveaways to everybody. I could do that. That's something that most people would do, just flood the market with them so everybody will see the OCB rolling papers everywhere. And I want to continue. If it's luxury, it has to be, there's got to be scarcity in it. So I gave boxes of those rolling papers only to the very few. Those people that when you go and, meet them and have a joint, you're like, hey, what is these papers? And then a conversation starts, and then you want to be like them. And the rest is history. OCB is one of the biggest brands in the world. I mean, in this realm, in this industry.
Yeah, so how was the market reaction in Israel, right? Israel is this federally illegal, when it comes to recreational cannabis. What was the reaction there when you were selling OCB papers?
Well, I didn't sell, of course. I gave it away to celebrities and very specific people. And, Israel is very innovative. Israelis are very much into something new and exciting. Excitement is very important in Israel. And of course, quality. So the idea behind OCB is there's a reason why we're so expensive, because the paper actually is different. So, and it's better for hash smoking, which is more the European style, let alone the French style. Back in those days, it was more hash, and the Israeli really liked, it's a really great product. So it's not only that, the product and the brand delivers on the promise.
Right.
So it's perfect. And then people started talking about it, and the design was totally different than all the others. It wasn't about smoking or getting high or anything like that. Nothing of this sort was ever part of the OCB branding. So it worked really, really well. And that's why they work so well everywhere around the globe, which is actually something that I think in the cannabis industry is really important to understand what you sell, who you sell to, and why should they buy. And we need to remember that we're talking about medical cannabis and a lot of medical or well-being products. The fact that they're made from cannabis, and at the moment, and mainly in the last few years, made by stoners or people who smoke, doesn't mean they need to have anything of that content realm in their branding.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue. So what are your do's and don'ts for cannabis marketing?
So actually, it's pretty much the same for everybody. The first thing is to ask 3 questions. What am I selling? Who do I sell it to? And why should they buy? So let's say you sell oils, and the end consumer is, and you sell it to the end consumer like a retailer. This is totally different than if you sell extracts to a wholesaler. So first of all, understand if you're selling to the end consumer or to a wholesaler, because it's different. And you need to find your customer really, really well. If you're selling something that makes less pain and better life, it's not about getting high. So anything that's well known, like the marijuana leaf or something like that, shouldn't be there at all, because it's not about getting high. And it's about the values, it's about well-being. And I still see a lot of companies having the marijuana leaf on the packaging. Just a few months ago, I finished a full branding for a Canadian product. It's a very special rolling paper called Straight and Roll. And one of the packaging that we did has nothing to do with cannabis on it. I decided that the idea is a very specific persona. The product and the brand will have a specific persona that can resonate with the specific customers that we want to buy the product. Because you cannot try to sell to everybody. You have to find who is your specific customer, focus on them, and talk to them and align your brand and your packaging and everything to that specific customer. So we're selling rolling paper that has nothing with weed or getting high on it. I can tell you that 64% of consumers say that shared values are the main reason they have trusted relationship with a brand. And there are two important words here. One is values, and the second one is trust. In today's world, you have to create meaningful long-term relationships with your customers. Not only because retention is better with ROI, but this is what gets you longevity. And you have to work, at least in the United States, you have to think long run. You have to think how am I going to continue with this business for the next 3, 5, or 10 years, because 80% of businesses here in the States are shut down after 3 to 5 years.
Right.
You do that by creating relationships. In today's world, there's so much of the same. Someone else is selling what you're selling. You're not special. So how am I getting to be special? How am I getting to have relationships? You create relationships with trust. How do I get trust? Because think about it. You have 10 friends. Some of your friends you trust. Others you don't. Now, if you think why you trust those that you do, probably it's because you share the same values. So think, what are your brand's values? Because when you build a brand personality, it's just like building a human being. And we all have values. Now, the values can be having fun. The values can be, I don't know, being a badass, which is something that I don't want to name names, but a really great oils brand that was one of the first ones. Their whole branding was about being a badass. It's very East LA, and that's the persona of the brand. And they were very strong because they were very focused.
Right. They knew exactly who they were selling to, and they didn't
Right.
try to sell to anybody else.
And they knew that the way to do that is to be from the hood. And they got to be very, very, very big. It's one of the brands that I really, really like. And if you're talking about another brand, Californian brand that got to be worldwide known is Mad Men. Just like Nike, Mad Men did everything like you're supposed to do when you're working on a brand, and you want to be a very well-known brand, because you need to know that A, it's not about you, it's about the customers, and B, it's much bigger than you. So what they've done is to tackle the whole society. They didn't promote their own brand in a way. They paid last year, I think, just for like 6 months, it was $1.6 million on a specific campaign that didn't show any of the product that they sell, didn't show weed at all or cannabis, but it showed regular people that are smoking and they're not stoners anymore.
Right. That's their stoner campaign, in which,
Exactly.
your mom, your dad, your nurse, your firefighter, your etc. is a quote stoner, right? Just because
Exactly.
they
Just
consume
because
this
they smoke. Exactly.
wellness plant.
Right, and this is changing culture. When you change the culture, you're getting to be huge. Just like Nike did in the mid 80s with Michael Jordan. They were the first one to have sneakers with the player's name. They are the first ones to have not white sneakers in the NBA. And Madmen were the first ones to say, forget about the cannabis. It's about the people. We need to change the perspective. And they done it really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody knows Nike. I love Nike, right? But I want to jump back to the other side of the world, right? Like, so let's talk about international branding, right? Because one day, hopefully soon, there are going to be international cannabis brands, right? So I guess, how could a brand potentially conquer the world?
Well, you can see Tikkun Olam, which is an Israeli cannabis brand, one of the most important ones actually. They started research on medical cannabis around 15 years ago, if not more. And they are now entering the USA.
Yeah.
And I have the pleasure to work with Tikkun Olam, California. And if we're talking about actually the leaf on packaging, these days I'm working on a brand experience booklet for Tikkun Olam, California. And this goes with the whole international thing. So we got a few, there's a brand Bible that we get from Tikkun Olam with the colors and the logo and the do's and don'ts and everything. And on the design, we have to use that. And there was a specific thing with the logo and then the cannabis leaf. And last week I was talking to a few of the peoples there, and I was like, hey guys, we're not selling cannabis to get high. It's not about getting high. Tikkun Olam, it's not about that.
No, it's about healing the world.
Cannabis, it's about healing the world. It's about healing yourself. It's about having a better life. So we're not selling, we're selling better life. We're selling less pain in your life. That's
Right.
something huge. That's something much bigger. We're not selling oils. We're not selling the flowers. We're selling different, better life. So let's take this leaf off the booklet.
And what was
And we
their
did.
reaction to that?
You're right. Let's do it.
Oh, great.
That was awesome. Because it's not about that. And those are exactly the things that the cannabis industry, mainly because corporate America got to so deep inside and so fast inside the industry. And corporate America knows how to market, knows how to retail, and knows how to brand. They know that the product is not what you're selling. You're selling something different. And if you want to be internationally known or an international cannabis brand, you have to think about the why, about the reason. If you're talking about what age are the customers, where they live and all that, it's not the right way, because you will have to find that those specific demographics are buying it because of a specific reason. So you have to have marketing budget for that specific region of the world and another marketing initiative to a totally other part of the world.
Right.
Instead of finding what are you selling that is the right thing and will resonate with everybody around the world, because that they all have the same reason why. The word why is very important in branding. It wasn't like that, but the world changed. A is internally, why am I doing that? Why am I selling the product? Why do I exist as a product or a brand? And the second thing is why they should buy. And if you go to psychographics instead of demographics, you will find that a 70-year-old and a 17-year-old have the same reason to buy this product. So if you go to the core, which is the reason why, and this is what you communicate, you're super focused, and you find both of them while you're marketing the same way. This means that you will save your marketing budget. Otherwise, you'll have to spend millions on each of and every one of those demographics, and in less than 3 years, you'll find yourself bankrupt.
Right. I could imagine that could be really helpful because it's still very hard to advertise cannabis brands. For example, with Aica, even, we advertise on Facebook and we get kicked off. Even though we don't touch the plant, we don't sell the plant, we just promote education, and even that.
Yes, I'm sure that a lot of our listeners had the same problem with YouTube last year when YouTube declared war on cannabis. And in one day, they just shut down accounts, huge accounts, without saying anything, and they shut down videos. It was crazy. It was like really war. And that's what brings us, if you're talking about advertising, I'm a huge believer in content and in organic growth. We have so many touch points. It's 2019, a brand has more touch points than ever.
Yeah, it's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, it is overwhelming. So the idea is to use content in a way that can be spread at kind of the same way all over your touch points, and use all your touch points in a consistent way.
Right, so you don't necessarily need a huge budget. You just really need to be consistent. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Cannabis. My name is Sarah Gluck. I am with the America-Israel Cannabis Association. And once again, let's thank Dino out of D-Branding for...
Thank you guys.